Hi there, this is Jamie Franklin, curator here at the Bennington Museum. Welcome to another Tour at 10. Today I'm standing here in our center gallery again, showing you some of the new paintings that are going on view. While we're closed here during the months of January, February, and March, we're taking that time to rotate some of our collections and share some works that haven't been on view for a couple of years. And two of the paintings that we have on view are wonderful depictions of downtown Bennington from the mid-20th century. And this one is by Francis Colburn. Francis Colburn, who I talked about recently in another episode of Tour at 10, was a Vermont artist, studied at UVM, went on and actually founded the art department at UVM after studying briefly here in Bennington in the late 1930s with Stefan Hirsch at Bennington College. And this was painted in 1939, the time that he was here in Bennington studying. He actually met his wife here in Bennington, Gladys LaFlamme. LaFlamme is a name that's probably familiar with many people who have been in Bennington for a long time. And this actually is a painting that depicts an actual event. So this is a painting that depicts the aftermath of a fire on Main Street that happened on November 3rd, 1938. And the fire engulfed three buildings, destroyed three buildings that were just west of the Methodist church in town. So this would be a building that's approximately where Evans News or now Bringing You Vermont stands on the north side of Main Street, right there in the kind of commercial corridor of downtown Bennington. You see actually a church and a graveyard in the background, which of course in reality you wouldn't see from this angle. So of course Colburn is using kind of artistic license, but taking an actual event and actual buildings that you would have seen in downtown Bennington. This might be the Opera House, which stood there on the corner until 1959, but again the angle isn't really right for the actual place depicted. But again, it gives you a sense of how an artist could take a real place that many of us are familiar with from downtown Bennington and turn it into this image that really kind of depicts the kind of gravitas and kind of dark days that the country was going through during the Great Depression and the lead up to World War II. Another painting that we've recently installed here is another very different painting of a downtown Bennington scene. This is a painting by Haines Burt, another artist not born in Vermont. She was born in Ohio. She studied art for much of her young adult life. She traveled a lot. She was in New York City, Philadelphia, Chicago. She was down in Georgia. She spent time in New Mexico painting in Santa Fe. She did a lot of pictures of the indigenous people there in the American Southwest, particularly in New Mexico. She also spent time in Texas. Her husband was a professor, so I think they bounced around a lot from job to job. But Ruth Haines Burt moved here to Bennington in 1950 and kind of became a part of Vermont's artistic community, Bennington's artistic community here in the mid-20th century. Of course, a lot of us associate Bennington and the mid-20th century with abstract art and the artists that were working at Bennington College, like Paul Feely and his fellow teachers and students over there. But there were a lot of artists like Ruth G. Mould who were continuing in this kind of classic pictorial tradition, depicting real places and people. And this is a wonderful image. It's called 123 Union Street. So this is 123 Union Street, right in downtown Bennington. And this was actually Ruth G. Mould's house. And I think this painting really captures kind of the life of a neighborhood. I've lived in Bennington, downtown Bennington, essentially for 16 years, not more than a couple of blocks from this scene. And I love all of the little details that kind of add to the kind of liveliness of this painting. From the birds, probably pigeons here roosting there on the house, fluttering away. A little cat kind of sneaking its way through the snowy landscape here in the lower right. This horse's head, which of course is probably a hitching post. So in the 19th century, when you used horses to get everywhere, you would tie them up in front of a house. And so this is a kind of carryover from 50 years prior to this portrait being painted. And this might very well depict Ruth G. Haines, the artist, kind of drying out her laundry or shaking out her laundry from the porch of 123 Union Street. But I love how these paintings capture very different aspects of downtown Bennington in the mid-20th century. Francis Colburn's Aftermath of a Fire, and this painting depicting kind of the life and vibrancy of our neighborhoods here in Bennington as they existed in the mid-20th century. So I think that's it for today's tour at 10. I encourage you to come back when we reopen in April and see these paintings in person. Thanks again, and see you again soon.